Monday Night Football studio and caught up with Jamie Carragher to get his thoughts. Right, I've managed to sneak back into the Monday Night Football studio to speak to Jamie Carragher ahead of a massive match tonight. It feels like with the transfer saga of the summer, which is still ongoing, as well as the history, this is the perfect fixture for Monday Night Football, right?
Delighted when I saw the fixtures come out. I think at that stage, the transfer saga, as you mentioned, of the summer was just bubbling. Now it's in overdrive, and we can't get away from it. You know, we like to do, the analysis of the weekend, but I mean, this story just hits you straight in the face. So, we've got to go straight to Isak as soon as the show starts, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen on social media this being billed as a grudge match. Would you say it's a case of the calmest heads will prevail tonight, or do you actually say the players should embrace the atmosphere?
I hope they embrace the atmosphere. I hope everyone goes a little bit crazy, loses their heads a little bit. Obviously, a little bit more Newcastle than Liverpool, because I think that will make for a great game. But I do think both managers on both sides will be saying it's imperative you keep your heads tonight. They've got to make sure that 11 players stay on the pitch. Yeah,
well, the man that everyone's talking about is not even going to be there.
He'll be watching.
Yeah, he'll be watching. How do Newcastle get at Liverpool without Isak?
Well, I think just what we saw last weekend from both teams, I think gives us a little snapshot of what this game will be tonight, where I think Liverpool have looked a little bit too open, I think, in the first Premier League game, but also the Community Shield, also friendlies this season. And yes, last week Newcastle didn't score, and I think they've gone 4 games now without scoring, without Isak starting a game. But they looked really dangerous on the counter-attack. You think of Anthony Gordon getting Konza sent off as well second half. Alanga had a great chance as well in the first half against Aston Villa. So I think that'll be the sort of the tactical, side of the game, and that's certainly how Newcastle can hurt Liverpool.
It's a tough week for Liverpool because they've obviously got that Super Sunday looming against Arsenal. Do you think a win tonight for Liverpool would set that game up nicely on Sunday?
Yes, it will, but I don't think Sunday's game needs setting up in terms of what happens tonight. If Liverpool are to lose tonight, you'd be thinking, OK, if you're an Arsenal sort of supporter, you'd be looking at thinking, Anfield to be rocking. They'll feel like they've got to make up for that because they've already 3 points behind us in the title race. So I think Sunday takes care of itself no matter what happens here tonight. OK, brilliant. Massive game tonight. We're going to hear a lot more from Jamie on what's been going on at the weekend as well, coming up a bit later on in the show. So, Clinton, grudge match. Is that how you see it tonight?
I can understand because of everything that's happened with Isak and that, but I don't think it's a grudge match. I just think Jamie's right. It's about who turns up, who can get the 3 points. I think it's a big game for both teams. In particular, Newcastle want to start well. Last week against Aston Villa, I thought they were outstanding. You know what they were missing last week, Bella? Someone who could put the ball in the back of the net. So they did miss Isak, but I thought they played brilliant against Aston Villa. We're really unlucky in that game not to come away with 3 points. And it's a big game for Liverpool. Obviously, we saw last week the good result they had against Bournemouth, but this is a hard place to go, St James's Park.
100%, especially at the moment as well. If you were a Newcastle player, would you have that extra motivation to beat Liverpool, just given what's happened?
I don't think the players will think too much about that extra motivation. They know they've got a job to do. They want to get the 3 points, start the season well. They'll forget about all the Isak. It's just it's them against.
Will they?
I think they'll forget that once they cross that white line. You don't really remember about what's happening with Isak. You just concentrate. You're playing for Newcastle. You got that black and white jersey on, and you're playing for the football club and for those fans that have turned up in their numbers. So yeah, as I said, I think it'll be a big game. It's always a great atmosphere at St James's Park, but even more extra spice with Liverpool being there. I think it'll be a hell of a football match as well.
And like Jamie said, Isak's going to be watching, isn't he?
Of course he'll be watching. I was thinking, would he actually sneak in there? But I don't think anyone at Newcastle lets him in there in any of the boxes. I'd definitely be doing that. But I think he'll watch it from home. But he'd definitely be watching the game because I do think that deal will happen after the game.
OK, right, we'll stand by for a new interview with Eddie Howe as he sits down with our reporter Keith Downey to explain how he has tried to drown out the noise around the club. But it's a topic everyone wants to have their say on.
The emotional responses as a Newcastle fan, you're outraged at the behaviour and the statements and all of the, the refusal to play for the club and everything else. But the logical side of you as a fan says you've got the third best centre forward on the planet in your squad. And if he is still here when the window shuts, you would be crazy not to integrate him back into the squad. I mean, Eddie Howe spoke very well, as he always does. And I would trust Eddie Howe's judgment on the player. If Eddie Howe thinks for 1 second there's a slight chance that he hasn't got the mentality to come back in the squad and give his all. I don't think Eddie Howe would want him anywhere near the squad. And I think he'd already be a Liverpool player now if that was the case, regardless of the replacements coming in.
There's one fan base that doesn't need any encouragement to get fired up and to make it even harder to go to their own ground, and it's Newcastle fans. So yeah, I think it's absolutely bound to be a difficult test. But champions have got to do what champions do and try and deal with that pressure. Maybe try and silence the crowd early on and take it from there. Try and stay in control of the game. We saw in the Carabao Cup final last season how that didn't happen when Newcastle players and fans were arguably more up for it than Liverpool were, and what the result of that can be. So I think it's important we don't let that happen tonight.